All right, and joining me today is Adam Livingston, who fights Thomas Gantt at Dana White's Contender Series Week 6. That fight is on September 16th. So, Adam, I like starting here with all the guys who get to call the Contender Series. Obviously getting that call is an exciting moment. What was it like for you when you heard that, you were going to be on the show?
Man, it was the best news I could have got. It's funny. I have a pretty good story of when I got the call. I was actually on vacation with my girlfriend in Spain. We're at a club. It's like 4 in the morning in Spain. We're having a good time because I just fought in June. So we booked a trip, celebrate, having a good time. Not on my phone all night. I get in the cab. I look at my phone for the first time. It's a text from my manager saying, "Hey, Adam, call me as soon as possible. Very important." I'm like, "What the hell is this about?" I pick up the phone. I'm like, "Yo," and he's like, "Yo, uh, you got offered Dana White Contender Series," and man, I was tearing up a little bit. I was really drunk. I was like, "This is the best night of my life. I'm in Spain. I just got this." So it was awesome. I got to enjoy the rest of my trip a little bit, and then as soon as I landed, right back to grinding.
Well,
So it was
that's
good.
good to hear. Now, and I got to ask too, obviously you said you were celebrating and it was like a huge moment and all that. Were you expecting it? Because, I know you're 6-0. That's a great record. And two of those wins, big stoppages in LFA. But had you kind of expected that this was coming this summer?
Yeah, I definitely had it in my back pocket thinking I thought it was either going to be Contender Series or a possible title shot for LFA, and I asked for that after my last fight, and I was happy with either one. Of course, Contender Series is the best one that you could get in my position. 6-0. It's not that many fights, but it's also not that little fights compared to some other people on the card. I've five finishes. I'm young. I'm hungry. So I wasn't too surprised. And they need another exciting lightweight hard hitter, goes for knockouts, type of guy. And I think that's why they called me. They want me to win, and that's why they put me up against Thomas Gantt because they know what's going to happen.
Well, we'll get to that fight in a little bit, but I want to talk too about you coming back from Spain then, because, like you said, you got right back to work afterwards, but it is a quick turnaround. How was the body in terms of recovering and making sure we make weight again? Especially, I know that food in Spain is no joke either. So tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, no, I had no injuries and stuff. I had a little cut after my fight, but that's nothing. Two little stitches, and besides that, I felt great. No injuries after the fight. And then even after that, I took the weekend off, about a few days off, kept training until the trip. Trip was only 10 days, so and the food there, and when you're in Spain, unlike America, everything's cleaner. Even if I am eating a lot and stuff, it's all whole foods. It's cleaner, so the weight wasn't too bad. No matter what, though, I am a very big lightweight, so the weight cut's never an easy thing. But I always get it done. Never miss weight in my life, so not worried about that. And yeah, it was a nice little mental break too. Like even no, I fought pretty recently. Having that break in Spain, and we also went to France, was a nice reset. And as soon as I got back to the gym, I was ready to go.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, I want to ask you too about your origins in the sport because, I know you're one of those guys who started super early, right? Like you were 18 years old when you got your first amateur fight. You're training well before then. Was kind of MMA always the plan for you? Like, how long have you known that this was the path for you?
Yeah, so I started training at 16. So I'd say as soon as I started training at 16, I knew MMA was the plan. I started training everything at 16. I was training MMA at 16, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing, everything. Um, but I knew I was definitely too young to start an MMA fight at 16. So while I was training MMA, I started competing in amateur USA boxing, won a couple of titles in that. Then I went after a few fights in that. I went to amateur kickboxing, and then it went 3-0 in that. And then when I was, I think it was 19, 18, 19, I made my amateur MMA debut, and then now pro. So built my way up.
And so what made you know that even at 16, like this is it? Like you stepped into the gym. What about it led you to be like, no, there's no other career path for me. I'm gonna punch people in the face.
That's a good question. Obviously you have to be a little skeptical because it is such a volatile sport. Like, and you want to, have a good life. You want to make money. You want to be safe. You want to have a family one day. It's definitely a risky career choice. But I knew I started young enough where I would be able to know if this is going to work out or not still early enough in my life where I'm not screwed over like a lot of other guys that are like in their mid 30s and they're not even in the UFC yet. And I'm like, all right, what are you doing, buddy? Like, go get that 9 to 5 and start making some money for your family or something. Where I I'm at the point where I'm already doing exactly what I thought I was going to be doing, but I'm young enough where if shit went south for whatever reason, I'm good to go. I have a lot of time to get my shit in track, and I also got my degree, my bachelor's degree in business. So I went to college all while fighting and stuff. So um, yeah, and I knew right when I first started training, I was better than most that first started. So I was just already naturally athletic. I hit hard right off the bat, and I never backed down from a fight. So that's I knew I had that in me.
Well, and was there a moment in the gym too? Like you walk in, obviously, like you said, you're the new guy. You're the guy who gets beat up for a little while. But you said you felt like athletic. You felt like you could hang right away. Was there a moment that like let it click where you're like, oh yeah, shit, I'm good at this shit?
Uh, I, I guess when I really, really, truly believed it was my first amateur MMA fight because I was only 18 or 19 and I was going against this like 38-year-old man. And it was the first time with the small 4 ounce gloves. Um, and the first 30 seconds, I dropped him. And I was like, holy shit, I could knock people out. And then I finished him in the next 10 seconds with some ground and pound. I think that's really when it clicked for me. I was like, okay, like I could really knock people out with my hands. And like I was always tough in the gym. I went with the best guys always. I would travel to the Bronx when I lived in Queens, sparring boxers when I was an MMA fighter, going toe to toe with everyone and bouncing around gyms for hard sparring rounds. And I did just fine. So, uh, yeah, I'm a winner. So I'm gonna keep winning.
I love it. Now, I also wanted to ask you, you mentioned it a couple of questions ago about the degree too. You know, you went to Hofstra, you got your degree in business. What is it like having, classes and doing all that stuff while this is your life behind it? Like, are you the coolest guy on campus because you're punching people out on the weekends?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, it was only the people like in my some of my classes would know. Because maybe I'd show up with like gallons of water in class when it was like fight week and I was water loading. My film would be like, "Yo, what is that for?" I'm like, "I have a fight this weekend. Actually, I'm like cutting weight right now," and I have to explain that stuff to them, and they thought it was so cool. But yeah, no, it took away from like more of the social life of college. I just went there, did my stuff, went home. I made my schedule too, where it was like I'd go in twice a week, but all day, so I would be able to have all those other days off just to train twice a day. Um, and yeah, I'm happy that happened this way. I was like looking at like fraternities or something, and then after like one day, I was like, yeah, I can't do this while training. I'm good, and I just stuck with the training, um, and yeah, I kept my head down, and that's about it. I knew good having a degree in your back pocket doesn't hurt, so.
Definitely does it. Now, you mentioned too going with the toughest guys and being with the toughest guys. And obviously, Long Island has like a legacy of MMA, right? Of, the people around either in the UFC or other high level dudes. You know, uh, what has it been like for you to be surrounded with those guys being, like elbow to elbow with you or, just on the other training mat or with the training mat with you?
Yeah, it's definitely inspiring. It gives me a little more confidence knowing like, okay, like this isn't so far out of reach. Like if they could do it, I could do it. What separates them from me? Like why can't I also do this? And me and my coach Brian Michelino always says like, why not you? Why can't you be the superstar? It needs to be someone, so why not me? So that's something I always take into consideration every time I go into the fight, and not to be surprised or shocked when something spectacular happens. So yeah, it's great to be surrounded by great fighters, people to look up to, people to learn from, do's and don'ts of what they did. So I am definitely on the right track.
Well, let's talk about the next step on that track, and that is this fight with Thomas Gantt. Now, you sort of hinted at this question about how you feel about this guy, but I always like to ask people their first thoughts on the opponents when they get offered. You mentioned that you're like, oh, they want me to win. Was that your first thought when you got eyes on this guy?
Yeah, 100%. You know, he has his pretty 10-0 record, but you take a deep dive, it's not that impressive. You know, he's going to be almost 34. He's going to be 34 in January. He's almost 10 years. He's about 10 years older than me. He's been doing what, MMA for about 2 years. He's been, don't get me wrong, an amazing wrestler, D1, whatever bullshit All American stuff he is. But this is not wrestling. This is MMA, and I've been doing MMA since I was 16. He's been doing MMA since he was 32. It's harder to teach an old dog new tricks. So I'm not too worried about his wrestling. I wrestle more and grapple more than I strike, even though I'm a striker in my fights. But I do more grappling than anything else because I know that's what everyone wants to do to me. So I don't knock them out. And it hasn't worked out for really anyone in the past, and it's definitely not going to work out for Thomas Gantt. His wrestling isn't that impressive, especially when there's punches and knees and elbows and stuff getting thrown at him.
Well, that leads me perfectly to my last question. I always love to end these things with a prediction. So tell me, September 16th, how's this one go down?
First round knockout, 100,000%. And then I'm going to go up to Dana White and tell him what I want next.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. This has been Adam Livingston, who fights Thomas Gantt at Dana White's Contender Series Week 6. Once again, that fight, September 16th. Adam, thank you so much for the time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, my man.